Hello everyone and welcome to my decade in review video. So the other day I got tagged in a video by Dark Devil 26. If you haven't seen him, his link is in the description below. Brendan's a good friend of mine through the Pokemon community, and he's been in the TBL summer leagues. He's joined in a bunch of the stuff in the server, and he's been a good friend of mine for a while. He's actually the one who commissioned when I did the IBL way back in the day. So I've known him for a long time, and he decided he was going to do this little decade in review. It just go back through your decade and talk about the highlights from every year, which I thought was a cool idea. I wanted to make sure that I did it. I got tagged in it, and at the end of this video, I'll tag a couple other people, and hopefully they do it as well, because I think it's a fun little way to get the community involved and to bring back a little bit of love. And I know that this decade has been tough for a lot of people. I will go through high points and low points as well in this video. I definitely want to make sure people are aware of the fact that there's going to be negative in this video, but there also will be a lot of positive, because I do think this was arguably the best decade I've ever had in my life. We're going to go through every year from 2010 to 2019, talk about how I got to where I am today and what's going on and how we are here. Right off the bat, 2010, I was a sophomore in high school. I was 16 then, 15, 16 years old. Right at the beginning of 2010 was arguably one of the low points of my life up to that point. I was so depressed that I had lost, over that December of 2009 into January of 2010, I lost 15 pounds in 10 days. I didn't eat. I was incredibly not doing well. But that being said, I definitely picked it all back up and got it together and went from there. I'm not going to talk about what happened to cause that. That wasn't technically in this decade. But suffice to say that I reworked my evaluation of my friend group, realized what was going on. Sophomore year of high school, not great. So one good thing that did happen in 2010, in May of 2010, my DI team, Destination Imagination, if you've never heard of it, look it up. Really cool program. Qualified for global finals that year on the back of one of the most impressive performances that I had ever done and been a part of. The premise of the organization is that you are creatively solving a problem together as a team. You can have no outside interference. Nobody else can tell you what to do. It is just the people on the team. You can have 2 to 7 people on the team, and they have to be of school age. You can do it all the way through college, but they have to be in school. So these aren't adults trying to solve a real life problem. These are kids trying to solve a challenge that was presented to them. So for instance, the challenge that year was one called You're Gonna Flip. And the premise of it was you had to have a main character in a skit reevaluate their life and flip into a new perspective. We decided we were going to reevaluate that and flip that on its head. So we actually had a good guy turn into the villain at the end of the skit. We actually made a backdrop that was an optical illusion, so it flipped upside down and actually became a different visual. So it was if you can picture it, it was like a mountainous scene overlooking like a river. And the river had some swells. It was not like whitewater, but like a couple of swells in the river. It was like a sunset in the background. Beautiful sunset scene. We had a couple of buildings in the foreground of this scenery. And then in the sun obviously being behind the buildings was casting a shadow over the river, and so it was a little bit wavy. When you flip that upside down, what we had built it to be was that it was suddenly that the buildings were on fire, and the villain, who was me in the skit, had actually set those buildings on fire, turned them upside down, and then what was once the sunset now became the fire. What was the river and the swells and the crests of the waves became the sky, a blue sky with clouds, and then the shadows from the sunset became smoke coming off of the buildings. And this was incredibly difficult to orchestrate, but it was super fun, super interesting, and honestly one of the coolest things that I've artistically ever participated in. So that really was like a turning point for me and really helpful in like May of 2010. 2011, and 2011 was my junior year of high school. It wasn't that interesting. I was applying for colleges. I was doing like other, little things. I made the varsity ultimate frisbee team in 2010, and then was a junior captain in 2011, which was cool. So I was able to really grow into myself. And then I made boys state, which is this like weird, it's really weird, and I encourage anybody who doesn't know about it to just continue not knowing about it. But basically the premise of boys state is that it's this weird little activity where you send 17-year-old boys, they all have to be juniors in high school, to basically a college or some like place away, together for a week to learn about I don't even know, government. So we learned about like zoning a town and like how to run a government. I was on like the newspaper, like, I don't know, it was like 1 week with a bunch of 17-year-old guys. Super strange, super weird. But while I was there, the Bruins played in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, and I wouldn't necessarily talk about that, except that Brendan was super obsessed with hockey in his, so I'm going to talk about how the Bruins did win the Stanley Cup while I was there in 2011. So that was pretty cool, and I got to watch it on a big screen with a bunch of other like guys, like 17-year-old boys from Massachusetts, which was like a really cool way to watch that. Like 500 people watching this on a like giant 20-foot projector together. Super fun way to watch a game. Not like obviously at the stadium like Brendan said he was, but still a really fun way to watch the game. 2012, I graduated high school that year. I was able to get into a college, so I started my college career as well. So that was graduate high school in May or June, and then started college in August out in Washington University in St. Louis. If that name sounds familiar, it's because that is the exact same college and the exact same time that Jolt and Styx both went out to St. Louis as well. I did not know them and did not meet them. They will come into this story way later down the road. But suffice to say, I did go out to St. Louis for college. I mean, it was my first semester of college. It was fine. Nothing too special about it. And yeah, it was a nice last summer here. 2012, I was also named valedictorian of Destination Imagination, which was a huge honor. I was actually the first person ever from Massachusetts to be named that. And I was able to go down to that global final tournament I had mentioned before, and deliver speeches to some of the most influential people that I've literally ever met, even to this day. So at the speeches that I was delivering was the CFO of Texas Instruments, was one of the higher ups. I don't know exactly what their letter combination would be, but like CAO of NASA, marketing manager from Disney, trying to determine if this was going to be a thing Disney wanted to jump in on, the CEO of 3M. I talked to the CEO of National Head Start. So huge, generally huge people, and tons of them. I mean, this was like 50 to 60 different companies sending heads of departments over to this event and watching an 18-year-old deliver a speech. I didn't know I was supposed to. Now, that's the best part of this. I knew I was supposed to give a speech at what they called their graduation for the other graduating seniors at this event, but I did not know I was supposed to deliver a speech to the heads of these divisions and companies. So I was at like a dinner, like little dinner with them before the opening ceremony of the event, and the person who's in charge of it comes up to me and is like, all right, you prepared to give your little speech? Should be about 5 minutes. Don't worry about it. And I was like, prepared to give my, excuse me? So I naturally, I got myself prepared. I jumped in with both feet. I went to my mom, said, do you have an index card? Wrote down 3 notes and then told a story. I ended up getting rave reviews. Everyone came up to me. It was like, wow, that was one of the most well-spoken, well-thought-out speeches you could have delivered. I'm super glad that we sponsor this program. Like, this is a big deal. I'm so glad people like you are in it. And I was like, I'm so glad. Like, my heart's pounding. I can't think straight. The blood's flowing. You know, like, I'm like so glad that it went out the way that it did. So honestly, that was a weird experience in 2012. Definitely one of the high points of that year. 2013 is my first full year at college. I was, let's see, anything interesting happened my freshman or first fall of sophomore year? No, my freshman year, I joined the Ultimate Team. I actually got cut from the A team and played for the B team in college. I played with them my freshman year, then got nominated for captain, but got looked over because I was a freshman, which is totally fair. And so I didn't actually get captaincy that year for the B team. Decided I wanted to do pre-law, so I went to an internship in a law firm. That's actually an interesting story. So I went to an internship in a law firm, and I got my first taste of a true client experience. We went to a mediation for a client. Now, obviously, I'm not going to divulge too much of the information right now, but in order to tell the story, you guys do have to have a little bit. But suffice it to say that I went to this mediation. I was the intern. I was shadowing. I wasn't supposed to say anything. I was just supposed to let the attorney and the client speak, and I was just there to observe and learn. And my discussions with the attorney before that in the office, when we had been deciding what we were going to do, was going to say, we expect nothing out of this mediation. We expect that the opposition is going to say we will not do anything here or give us such a terrible offer that it isn't worth accepting, and we are going to just decline and go to court. And the court date had been scheduled. It was 8 days from then. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go to mediation. I'm going to go to court. Like, I've got all this experience. Sweet. And then they turn around, the other side turns around and says, we're going to offer you basically what amounted to full reimbursement for all damages and more than that. And the client was like, I don't want it. Now, if you're an attorney, you can't say anything to your client. You have to do what your client says. That's tough, because if your client says something that is completely illogical and based on emotional, truly like non-logical belief, you still have to follow what they're saying, even if you believe something completely different. And so the attorney can't say anything differently, but also doesn't want to go tell the mediator that we're not taking the deal because this is an amazing deal. So she's trying desperately to get her client to say yes to the deal without telling her client to say yes to the deal, and she can only say so much. So finally, the client turns to me, 19 years old, this is 2013, and says, what would you do if this was you? Now, I'm not the attorney. Remember that. The attorney has a responsibility to do what the client says. I have a responsibility to say nothing and just shut up, unless the client tells me to speak, at which point I can do whatever I want, because the client is the one who's the boss in this room. And so I look at the attorney, she nods and kind of like pleadingly nods, like say something that will help us here. And so I was like, all right. So I said my piece. I said, look, you're not going to get better than that in court. You can go to court and maybe you'll get the same deal. But that's a no. You don't know for sure if you're going to get the same deal. Right now, you know you're going to get this deal if you take it. And if you want to go to court and take the deal, nobody's going to stop you from doing that. But you're risking losing what you already have, and it's definitely, I mean, I've done a lot of the research, it's definitely not going to be better than this deal that you have right now in front of you. So the client says, all right, fine, I'll do it. And I have never seen someone jump as far or as fast or open a door as quickly as that attorney did. She heard the yes word, and she was out. She was telling the mediator we were taking the deal. It was so funny. And so 2 days of work later, the attorney calls me into her office and shows me an email from that client who had said, sent an email being like, look, I know I was really emotional in the moment. I know that I was really in a tough spot and I wasn't thinking clearly, and your intern saved my decision making. I mean, your intern is going to be an amazing attorney, wants, like he just understands how people think and knew what I needed to hear in order to take the right deal, which I think this was in this case. And it was a really heartfelt, touching email. And it also told me that I never wanted to be an attorney because I don't want to work with people who are entirely in charge of the situation and are in situations in which they are making non-logical, rational decisions. They are making emotional decisions. I can't work with those kind of people and not be able to speak up. I saw how frustrating it was for the attorney, and I was only able to speak up because the client literally asked me to. And the client doesn't always ask the attorney to speak up. And if the client doesn't ask, the attorney can't do it. And I cannot work in those conditions. So I decided not doing it. I jumped ship on pre-law right then. Well, I mean, I finished out the internship, obviously, but I never came back to pre-law. Switched over to business school, business program at Olin School of Business at WashU. At least I was double majoring, so I was still in arts and sciences, and then I was also in the business program. Took the first couple classes in business that year and decided to switch to human resources. And that'll bring us into 2014, where I was like, I'm going to be a human resources major. So I go about my sophomore spring, happy-go-lucky, just chilling, doing the classes and things, and then switching over to the business program. And then I go do a human resources internship, which was awful. And it was boring. It was monotonous. It was not interesting. I was literally going on LinkedIn and Indeed and recruiting for most of my entire thing, just sending basically cold calls to people who, I guess they were sort of warm leads because they had already posted on Indeed. They were looking for a job, but like basically cold calls. They weren't people we had like talked to. And I just kind of sat there and did that every day. But that was the year of the World Cup, so I had that on my screen during work, and nobody told me I couldn't, so that was fine. The other thing that happened, which was just a very quick story, is that I was sitting at work one day. This was in Pennsylvania. I was working at Victaulic Corporation in Easton, Pennsylvania, I think is where it was. There was one day where it was a horrible thunderstorm, and I was at a window, like right in front of me, and then there was a little grass patch. It was like the main entryway walkway was like a little walkway, and then there was a little grass patch right there, and a lightning bolt struck in the grass patch, like between the. It was probably 4 feet from me. It was like the desk, the window, the grass patch, lightning bolt, and I jumped. I'll admit, like 3 feet in the air. The person sitting next to me, who was also looking out the window, jumped higher than that. It was so loud because the thunder that struck was exactly the same time as the lightning, because it was so close to us, and it shook the building. It was so loud. It was right there, and I saw it happen right in front of me. It was terrifying. Obviously, I was inside. I was safe, and the electricity didn't even flicker. Like, it didn't care. The lightning bolt didn't hit the building, but like, it was right there. There was no fire or anything either. It just like smashed into the ground right there. It was pretty crazy, not gonna lie. In the spring of 2014, I was on the B Team Ultimate Team as well, and then I was renominated to be captain, and this time I was selected. So my junior year, 2014 into 2015, I was actually captain of the Ultimate Frisbee team at Wash U. And I decided I wasn't going to be in HR anymore. I was going to switch over to marketing, try that out. So I switched over to marketing, started taking more marketing classes, really found those fascinating. Market research is definitely where my passions lie. It wasn't a great point, but it wasn't a terrible point. And then we'll move into 2015, my junior year of college. Now, this is December 2014, early 2015. This is another point where I haven't really talked about my personal relationships at all because they haven't been relevant. In fact, this entire time that I've been talking about from, well, at least 2011 through 2015, I was dating the same girl that I had met in high school. We've been dating for like 4 years, and we broke up in December of 2014. We tried to break up, and she broke up with me 3 weeks before I had already purchased her tickets to fly out to St. Louis to visit me at college. She'd never come out to see me. So I was like, look, nobody else can use these tickets. Just use them. We've been together for 4 years. If you want to stay with me, you can. If you want me to get you a hotel and just stay in St. Louis and see St. Louis, you're never going to come out here again. Just see it. It's worth it. So she said, okay. She came out. She said, I'll stay with you. I don't want to pay for a hotel. So we ended up staying together, had a great time for like 10 days while she was out there. She actually extended her trip by a couple of days to stay out for a couple extra nights, just so we could continue spending time together. And that worked out really well, except the fact that we then spent the entire next semester being like, we sort of already broke up, and neither of us are really wanting to be in long distance anymore. And just like grinding, and it got worse, and it got worse, and it got worse. And by the time we actually broke up in May, it was just bad. We finally just decided it wasn't going to work. For the next 3 months, I was sort of depressed. And I say sort of depressed. It wasn't bad. I had my first marketing internship. It was actually just a stipended thing. I worked from home for Destination Imagination, and I only got like $2,000 for the whole summer. It wasn't like that big of an actual income boost, but it was a pretty good experience for me. I basically started DI in England. I didn't start it for the first time, but they had kind of lost the program, and I revamped it in England. So I didn't get to go to England, but I got to speak to a lot of representatives from England who were interested in the program and got them involved in it. And so it was a really cool marketing endeavor to try to get them involved. I really enjoyed that. I actually was the first like internship that I was like, yep, this is something I can see myself doing for a long time. But I was doing it while I was like, I don't know, I just not happy about what was happening. And around that time is actually when I started watching Esper Fox, who was an old Twitch streamer who doesn't do Pokemon anymore, but he started with shiny hunting. And I actually found him when he had less than 20 followers. I don't actually know how I found him, but I did, and I started watching him every single day. He was streaming, and I watched him every single day. Made some really long-lasting friends in that chat. Noctali, who's still one of my good friends in the Pokemon community, although she's had a child and like moved on and grown up and stuff, whereas I'm still sitting here. I met her in that community right off the bat there, and we started talking outside of Esper's chat, and he's actually the one, he didn't tell me to stream, but he's the one who motivated me. It was his style of streaming that I emulate, which is incredibly interactive, loves having a small chat, loves having a couple people that come back every time, and that's definitely where I got my style from, was him. So that was in like probably October of 2015. Additionally, in October of 2015, I also met another girl, Rachel, who I started seeing. We met, and then 8 days later we were dating, and that was interesting. And that was my senior year of college. Now at the end of 2015, I dislocated my shoulder, which sucked. So I was miserable from the emotional wreck that I was from my prior relationship. I then dislocated my shoulder, and I was mentally strained because I took 7 classes my senior fall. So I was dying. Like, I was actually in one of the lowest points I've been in. Rachel really pulled me out of that. Really helped get through that. Made sure that I was taken care of. Went to PT. Did all the things I needed to do. Great at the time partner and relationship, and we were together for the whole year, my whole senior year. She went abroad and I graduated, and it fell apart incredibly quickly. 2016, I graduated college. I didn't have a job lined up out of college, but I did come home, live with my mom, and then I started streaming in 2016. Summer of 2016, I started streaming after I graduated college. That was great. I started with Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, Fire Emblem Blazing Sword, and did a couple chapters of a randomizer of that, which I would love to do again if I ever have the chance to. Super hilarious to randomize a Fire Emblem game. Then I switched to Bait and Kato's Origins, and that was my first full-length playthrough of a game. I'd actually never beaten it, and I had like 30 followers. I was having a blast playing this game. It was hype. I was into it. I was having a great time. Finished it, and I loved it, and I was hooked on streaming. At that time, I was streaming 7 days a week from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. every day. And then I got a job in September, 30 hours a week. I was doing cold calls and sales, which was the worst. Rachel and I broke up. Well, we'll jump ahead now. So in September, I got the job. I also got a 3DS capture card for the first time, and that was the change. I jumped over to Pokemon in 2016. Within a month, I went from 30 followers to 100. Within another month, in December, I was at 250 followers. I got a raid from Shofu. I was exploding. And like I said, I was streaming every day from 9 to 1. And I was exploding. And then the job took its toll on me, and I could not do sales, guys. It was bad. Rachel then also decided to break up with me because there was a lot of reasons, and I'm not going to go into them right now. But it hit me hard. It felt very sudden, and it was also 3 weeks before I had already purchased plane tickets to fly out to Europe to see her while she was abroad. Yeah, those aren't cheap, and also it really kills your motivation to do it when you get broken up with 3 weeks before it, and you know you're going to be on the same flight. You've already made hotel reservations to be together, so that was bad. So I didn't go. I didn't really do anything. Didn't really move. I quit my job and got broken up within 24 hours of each other, and then I went completely MIA. This is the beginning of 2017, March of 2017. Went completely MIA from the internet for 6 months. Didn't come back until September. And if you asked me what I was doing during that time, I was working 3 different jobs, 2 different states, commuting constantly. I was also looking for new housing. I was moving. I finally got taken on full-time in August, and then moved in with Dan in August as well, or maybe in September, one of the two, August or September. Lived with Dan for 2 years, and we started this YouTube channel. Not this one. This one.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Player 2 First. I'm Player 2.
And I'm Player 1. Ah! What? How did you? When did you? Where? How? What?
I have 0 answers.
Well, welcome everyone to 2017. Start of that, we were both looking at just being out of our hometown where our parents were, and starting our own. We actually, first winter, we're spending a good amount of time together, hanging out, like roommates, like friends do. And then life happened, and Dan and I started 2018 going in the same-ish direction. We're both getting in shape for the Ultimate season over the summer, and going through, doing workouts together and spending time together in that way. And then I tried out for a single Ultimate team that Dan did not try out for with me. That's the team that I made, and that's the team that I joined. Yep. That was Scarecrow, who I've still played for since then. So I went the Ultimate direction. Dan instead decided he was going to go with his passion, which is theater, and had a lot of success doing that instead, which is something I've never had any success or ever tried to do. 2018, we are both working full time. We're both doing our own passions. Right over that summer, I'm going one way, Dan doing theater, and yeah, we just kind of stopped talking and knowing each other existed. And living in the same house, basically.
We probably saw each other a little bit less that summer than if we hadn't been living together.
Yeah, no, I feel like if we had to try, we would have tried. But instead it was like, oh, Dan's just gonna be around, and then he wasn't around. But then I guess it was like early to mid 2018 is when we both started also kind of finding our own passions on the internet. So we started, as you guys saw, the intro for and a couple of series on Player 2 First together. But then Dan went one direction and I went another, and actually neither ended up being YouTube, sort of. I was on YouTube doing Draft League stuff, but I was mostly on Twitch, and Dan went, well, would you like to talk about your path on the internet, Dan? Because I feel like it's going to be a story you need to tell.
No, I would not. No, I started TikTok about a year ago. Last November 2018, I downloaded it just to like follow some people, just kind of see. I had seen little compilations here and there, so I was like, oh, I'll just download the app, it'll be easier, and scroll through. So then a month later, I was like, I'll probably make some of these. So I started making them, and I was like, you know what, for 1 week, I'm gonna do 3 every single night, just so I get into it. I have some sort of commitment, and so I can like dive in, so I'm not just like flaking out immediately. And so the first night, you know, it was fine. The second night, fine. Third night, I had a video actually blow up, legit blow up. Like it got up to 16 or 17,000 likes. So that just like, I was committed now. And so for another solid 5 or 6 months, like up through early summer or midsummer at least, I was doing 3 videos every single night, and sometimes that was a problem. Usually it was a problem. It was 3 a.m. and I was like,
it was only a problem when you come home at 1:30 and start. Like, and I'm like,
like I got ready
work in the morning.
I'm getting ready for bed at 11, and I'm just gonna do these 3 videos until 3:30 and a half o'clock.
But you skipped the first thing you did on the internet that wasn't YouTube, which was Instagram.
That's true. I went to Instagram.
Yeah,
because
which was a big deal for a little while.
Right,
and actually, those videos were the first ones I saw,
Yeah.
and that's what got you into TikTok, because you were already doing TikTok style videos on Instagram, which were hilarious. I mean, some of those were absolutely just gold. And I'll admit, I've only watched the videos of Dan's TikTok that he has shown me, because I've never downloaded TikTok. So those are also gold, but I don't actually know because I haven't really watched them. And it's not any shot against him. If you are on TikTok, plug yourself.
Dan MP Murray.
But if you're like me and you're an old fart and are not on TikTok, then just take my word for it. His videos are great.
I did Instagram because Player 2 First had kind of fallen off at that point.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, these videos we made for Player 2 First are like half an hour to an hour long, and I'm spending several hours each week on one video, and we did 3 per week. So I was like, if I can just focus all of my energy on 1 minute, an Instagram video, like, that'll be great. Because even then I was kind of hitting a creative hitch, because like I had to come up with all the ideas, and I kept like getting videographer's block. Sure. Grammar's block? No. And so then it was like TikTok, I was like, oh, it's a whole different ecosystem. You have all these existing videos and audios that you can say, oh, that gave me an idea. Let me do that. And so that's how I was able to get those 3 out a night, because I was even doing like once a month for Instagram videos.
Yeah,
I really liked that.
Yeah, you were doing,
and I put a lot into them, but I was like, I just want to make more.
So then Dan blew up on TikTok. 2019 comes around, and I decided I was going to start applying for graduate schools. And that is when Dan and I ended up going our separate ways. And when I say our separate ways, I mean we were living together, and then we were living on literally opposite sides of the country. So
yeah, I went to California.
So Dan took off. He's like, all right, you smell this bad. So I move out in March of 2019. Was it March? I don't know. It was a little later. I think it was May of this year. I moved out. July, I got my lease for my new apartment, and have been living on my own since then. Currently working at the same job I got at the end of 2017, and I've gotten promoted a couple times, gotten raises a couple times, which is super nice. And then in 2019, obviously the big thing that happened, the reason that I moved to Boston in the first place, was because I got into college, into grad school. So now I'm currently attending classes for my MBA, still working in marketing, and I just finished my first semester here, and it was great. I passed all my classes. That's good. Both of my classes. It's tough. It's long days. Part-time MBA plus full-time job is a lot, plus YouTube, plus streaming, plus trying to maintain a social life. But yeah, so here we are. We've caught up to present day. I know this was a bit of a long video for just me talking at your faces. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys liked the cameo from Dan. I hope you guys had a good decade. I know, like I said, everyone had ups and downs. 10 years is a long time to be a part of the world. And, joining the Pokemon community in 2016, starting Draft League in 2017, getting all of the stuff that happened to me throughout that was just, it was a great ride, a long time. I'm looking forward to the next decade, but admittedly, I don't know at this point how it's going to match up to this prior one. Little quick hits that I didn't talk about right at the end because I jumped through that. My sister just got engaged a month ago, and I will be officiating her wedding. I will be the one signing the document saying that her and her fiance can get married, or are officially married. So that's really exciting. That's going to happen next year, so that'll be the start of the new decade. But that'll be really fun and really exciting, and I'm very proud of her and happy for her. Love her fiance. They're actually coming home tonight. When I'm recording this, they're coming home this evening, and I'm going to go see them. So this will be a really, it's not like I have a lot of time on my hands. I've just got so much stuff going on. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. And at this point, I guess I have to tag a few people. So the people I'm going to tag are going to be Neon Zero, the artist formerly known as Heavy Metal Pokemon, Eric, Alex Cool Rocket. You want to get bigger on YouTube, so this is your chance to get this shout out and get in on this. It's a fun experience to think back through these years. I recommend it, guys. And I'm also going to tag Diet Tight, Jason, tagging you, Playmaker. If you want to do it, go for it. You'll be my fourth person I'm going to tag. So those four: Diet Tight, Alex Cool Rocket, Playmaker, and Eric Neon Zero. You are my four that I am tagging for you guys to now go out and try this little experience. It was fun. It's been a long time. It's been a long decade, but at the same time, I've had some lows, I've had some highs, and I've certainly had a fun ride. So hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys back here next time with another Pokemon-related video. Thank you all so much for watching for the past however long, 3, 4, 5 years in some cases. I will see you all later. Take care, everybody. Yeah, since Dan has moved to California, I haven't had the chance to see him, but he's back for the holidays, so hopefully you guys enjoyed our little foray into, the end of the year, which I think was on some, or the end of the year, the end of the decade, which I think on some level was, Dan and I spent that as sort of two peas in a pod, and we've been this way for a long time. We've been friends since well before the decade started. I think 2003 or 4 is when we actually met for the first time, and we've been very close since then. And Dan came in today and was talking about like, oh, I'm gonna talk about this story, and then we both realized that happened well before the decade, and so little things like that. So it's fun to have friends that are just lifelong, and see a whole decade go by where they continue to be a part of your life in different ways, right? There's the whole college experience where I didn't really talk about Dan at all because we really didn't speak all that much when we were in college together, except on holidays when we would see each other a couple times. Be like, how are you? You're still alive? Good to know. See y'all in a couple months after this. And that's kind of how I felt when we lived together too, to be fair.
Yeah.
It was like, you're still alive? Great. I'll see you in a couple months.
That's one thing that's funny about being an adult. Like, if you're in high school and you don't see someone between periods 3 and 4, you're like, well, I guess we're not friends anymore.
I guess they're
But
dead.
if you're an adult and you haven't seen someone in 15 years, you're like, oh my god! And you just catch up and it's like freaking yesterday.
Oh my god, yeah, no, that's totally real. That's unacceptably real.
Yeah.
Anyway, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Happy holidays to anybody who's still celebrating. Obviously, Christmas itself is over, but Hanukkah is still going on as of the time of recording this. New Year's is coming up, and I actually have no idea when the dates of any other holidays are. So if you guys are still celebrating, happy holidays. Be safe, be warm, and make a friend that lasts a decade. Goals for 2020.
Yeah.
Take care, everybody.
Bye. Till next time. See you later.
Oh my god, we should have done it. We should.